on this cool, is it Tuesday evening? I've just pressed the approve button on a few new people to the group. So I'd like to say a big warm welcome to everyone that's new to the Property Development Facebook community. I hope that you get a lot of value out of this group. It's a pretty great group to be part of. I'm just going to add Tony. Tony's disappeared. Where are you, Tony? Hi, Jen. How you doing? Oh, there you are. Tony, I'll get this one day when... Ah, there you are. Bear with me, I'm here because it's important. Oh, I feel the warm and fuzzies. I'm with you, Jen. You know what? It's part of what we're talking about today, right? Aren't we, Tony? Because you've had a big day as well. I think I've had a pretty big day also. That's probably... Can you hear
Hello.
me?
Hello. How are you?
How are you?
I'm great. How are you going?
Excellent. Thank you.
I was
Really,
listening
really well. Jen is...
I was listening to your introduction,
Maybe I need
and
to put my...
I was listening to your intro. Yes, you need to put headphones in. Is that what you got to get value from this? Cheryl, we're guaranteeing them value. We're not hoping that we're guaranteeing they get value.
They will. They will get value. Yes, they will.
Have you got me
Use
okay?
positive words. I do.
Good.
There seems to be a tiny
Good.
little
Okay,
bit
great.
of a lag.
Well, it's because I'm in Brisbane. We're a little bit slower up here.
It's a smart state, Tony. That's what
We are the smart state. Correct.
That's what the car number plate says.
That's what it says. We're the smart state. That's it. There we go. Righto. What are we talking about?
Let's
get into it.
Who was the night? One of our community asked towards the end of our session last week about how do we keep motivated.
Yes.
And it's a great question because we're all, we started off with, our why, our goal setting, and time management. And one of the things, when we start off anything, we're all usually pretty pumped about it. Keep, the excitement's high. It's all great. And, we see, the big pictures like this. And it does get to a point where, good question, because it's not all smooth sailing.
Well, what you're describing is New Year's Eve. What you're describing is New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And we all get incredibly excited and enthusiastic about the big goals we're going to set for ourselves for the following year. And we're going to lose weight and give up drinking and quit smoking and earn $1 million and all these wonderful things. And we get to the middle of January and we go, ooh, okay. And the reason is that we're setting goals for the wrong reason. So we've actually gone through over the last 3 weeks in a very deliberate order, the topics. And we started off with your why. And then we talked about your goals, and then we talked about your capacity to execute on the goals. And tonight we're talking about motivation on the back of a viewer question. But the reason that we did that is because the highest level of motivation, the most successful form of motivation, is purpose-driven motivation. So we actually covered it off in lesson 1 or in session 1, where if you are aligned to your purpose, then you are going to be far more motivated to go after that as opposed to other types of motivation. Does that make sense? And so it's all about, one of the best ways is to get very, very connected to your purpose, to your why, understand why you're doing this, why you're doing property development, because it is guaranteed that your property development journey is going to be like this. And perhaps it's going to be like this before it starts to get like this. Does that make sense? Yeah, correct. And look, there is enough of those to keep us coming back, right? So there's enough little wins that we have or big wins we have, but it certainly is a bit like that. And so you need to have a deep reason as to why it is that you want to do this thing in the first place. And so that's why we deliberately started with your why, understand your purpose. That's the highest form of motivation. The lowest form of motivation, or one of the lower forms of motivation, is money motivation. When people are constantly chasing the money, That's not the reason. Your why needs to come from within you. It needs to be within you, and it needs to drive you, create emotion, create happiness, freedom, whatever it might be, but it needs to come from within. And so that's one way to describe motivation. The other is that motivation gets you started, habit keeps you going. So again, go back to New Year's Eve. Motivation gets us started. We get out of the blocks, we buy our new pair of running shoes, we put on our active wear, and we get ready to do the 5K run. That's motivation.
Yeah.
It's then habit, right? Setting aside the time, getting our gear ready the night before, so our shoes are ready, our clothes are ready. There's no excuses, and we create the habit, right? So that's the other way that we embed the motivation, because motivation gets us started, but then habit keeps us going, or routine keeps us going. And so you need to do that. And they say that, it takes 21 days to form a habit. Well, you want to do something consistently for 21 days. It starts to become a routine. It starts to get in to your subconscious. Then you want to do this automatically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's no different to, I think I touched on last week, when you drive to your work or from your work to your home, you do it automatically because you've done it so many times. You hop in your car and you're driving along, and then before you know it, you arrive home and you go, I didn't really think about that. And you don't, because you're on autopilot, because you've done it so many times. And so the same, whether it be with losing weight or property development, whatever it is, motivation gets you started, but then it's the habit or the routine that keeps you going.
Yeah, because then it becomes something that you don't necessarily think about.
You don't think about it. You just get up. Your alarm goes off at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever time you get up. As I said, you want to create the environment as well. So you want to make sure that everything is set up for you. You don't want to, go to bed and then not have things organized in the morning, because it could be an excuse, and it could be just that split second where you start to think about it when your mind goes, you know what, it's too cold.
Yeah.
You know what? Look, we won't go today.
So from that point itself, when your mind starts to think, the negative, what's a really good tool to be able to sort of snap yourself out of that before it even thinks about it's too cold, it's too early, I'm tired, I've had 2 hours sleep, whatever.
To go.
What's a really
Here's the thing. So your mind is going to do that. It's going to do that. It's designed to do that. Why? Your mind is designed to keep you safe. It's designed to keep you comfortable, right? And so when you go and push and do different things and grow and transform, you're doing different things. You're doing things that you're not used to doing. So your mind's saying, sit down, go back to bed, take it easy. It's not for you. You're too old, you're too young, whatever it is. So the best way to overcome it is go. And there's a lady who wrote a book, Mel Robbins. The book is called 5-Second Rule. Have you read it, Cheryl?
I apply it every morning when I have a cold shower.
There you go. So for you,
or when I have to wake up at 5. Yes.
Yeah, and so for the viewers watching, the 5-second rule is when you have a thought, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And so this lady created this idea. She suffered from anxiety, and she got to the point, she was watching a rocket launch one night, and it just dawned on her that was her approach. So in the morning, when the alarm gets off, and she has that momentary, she thinks about, I've got to get up. And if you leave it any longer than a few seconds, your mind kicks in and says, it's cold, you're old, you're not ready, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people just go, okay, right, okay, and they pull the doona back up and they don't get out. But her theory is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, go, get into it, and just go. And when you're up and you're out and you're moving, you're up and you're into it. So that's one of the techniques. The other technique, and I love my drawing, Cheryl, and so I've done a little drawing.
Do we have one today? Excellent.
Well, I noticed actually last time that it comes in reverse. So I don't know if we can do. I don't know if you can see that way. Maybe is that the right way? Yeah, look at that. Isn't that clever?
There
see?
You go.
How clever am I? So anyway, my point to this is that what happens is we humans are attracted to pleasure, or we seek pleasure, and we avoid pain. Right? And that's how we motivate. So we have two choices with things, right? And so let's take property development. You've got to go and find a deal. You know that entails pouring through RP data or Price Finder, sitting behind your computer, looking through town plans, doing contours. So you've got that to do. Versus your family sitting in front of the fire. They've got your favourite Netflix movie on. There's a nice cup of cocoa there. And you've got this choice. And so in the spirit of seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, we seek the pleasure associated with grinding it out on my computer. Perhaps I've got to go and sit in the office on my own, etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's in regards to property development. So how do we get beyond that? We think about something into the future and we project our thoughts. So that is that right now I'm associating a lot of pain with having to do those tasks in regards to finding a deal. But what about in 6 months' time, if I have enjoyed the cocoa and the Netflix and I've procrastinated and I haven't done my property searching, my finding of my properties, how am I going to feel? Does that make sense? And then if that doesn't spark some action, project forward and say, well, in 12 months' time, if I sit here and I don't maximize the opportunity that I've got, and I spend more time with my family and do zero on my properties, and I'm still stuck in that crappy job that I don't like, how am I going to feel? And what you're doing is you're amplifying the pain. And so go back to my little chart, which is to seek pleasure and avoid pain. You're projecting into the future, you're amplifying pain. That is the pain of, if I don't get moving, if I don't do this now, then in 12 months' time, I'm still going to be in the exact same spot that I'm in, maybe even worse. That's pain. And we don't like pain. And so that's that moment there where we get jolted up to go and make a change. And so there's a saying which, you go?
No, go. Sorry, Jin's asked a question. I can see how the why and the vision is important to get the projection stronger. Definitely, because that is the key thing that pulls you through when the going gets tough.
100%. So it's all about it's about having something into the future. It's about working towards something. Always look in a forward direction. When you drive a car, do you drive it looking through the rear view? No, you don't, because you'll have a crash. Always look in the forward direction. Now, the only reason that you would look in the rear view is for two reasons. One, if you've had, well, maybe more than two, but one, if you've had a mistake or a failure, take the learning from that. So take the learning from it. Don't sit there and stare at it and consume it. Just go, okay, let's take the learning from it and let's now move forward. The other reason that you want to look behind is to see how far you've come, is to see how far you've grown, is to see the positive changes that you've made. But other than that, keep looking in a forward direction. Keep working towards that thing that you've got for yourself. And that's going to help you stay very focused and driven towards achieving your goals. So there's that bit there. What I was going to say before is that change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of the change. And that's the whole piece around projection and amplify. I'll say it again. Change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of the change. So when you go and change, that's hard because your mind's not used to it, right? And you're doing something different. And so your mind has to go and connect all of the neurons together and fire and wire them together, right? And so that's why you want to, when you do something new, you want to then go and constantly create the habit, because every time you do it, you're solidifying the neurological pathways, right? But if you sit there and you get to a point where it's like, you know what, if I don't do this, if I don't do the deal finding, which gets me my first deal, which then gets me into a project, which then gets me to exit the project, which then gets me the cash flow, gets me out of my job, which gets me closer to working for myself, which means that I can blah, 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 like you just play it out. If I don't make the change now, then I start to get angry about it. And that's the key, right? The key is that you want that to spark you up out of your chair and to go, I've got to make this happen. And so for me, if I go back to my story, right? So way back in 2015, I read the book Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in there, he talks about start with the end in mind. And when he talks about start with the end in mind, he refers to your eulogy, right? And so when I first read this, I must be honest, I was struggling to read it because I couldn't deal with my own mortality. And so I put it down. But then for whatever reason, I picked it back up a few weeks later. And I really resonated with the point that he was making, and that is that what is it that people are going to say about you when you're gone? What's your legacy that you're going to leave behind? And so for me at that time, it was, well, I'm overweight, I didn't have the wealth for myself, I was unhappy, I had an average relationship with my wife, average relationship with my kids, and it was just a whole tale of woe. That sparked me because I thought into my future, so I projected my thought into the future and went, hang on a second. If I don't make a change now, and I was 42 back then, I'm 46 now, but if I don't make that change, then that's going to be a dreadful eulogy. And so that was the reason that I got up out of my chair and did what I did.